Welcome to yet another YouTube video here on this channel. Today we are going over how I use my notebooks with my different productivity apps. Why are the notebooks here when I already have apps that can do the same job? And how do I actually use my notebook with these apps in order to create the best system for me? So there are several ways you could do this. The first one is to actually just use your notebooks as a capturing tool. It is much easier to take this out and write things down than to take out your phone or your computer and get distracted by all of the notifications. It used to happen to me a lot, so I switched to a notebook, but I'm not only using it to capture stuff. There are several other things I am using it for, and I'm going to show you my system. So I have this passport size traveler's notebook, I have this regular size traveler's notebook, and I have an A5 notebook as well inside of this leather thing. I forgot the name. Leather cover. It is called a leather cover. Anyways, the first thing is probably this one, which I use the most. I have one of these moleskin cashiers in here. Here I just log my days, so everything I did that day I like to have inside of here, and it is just to figure out what actually affects my mood, because I tend to have a lot of mood swings. So I wanted to figure out what actually affects my mood. So I bought one of these, and I only use it to write down what I did on a given day. So this isn't the most important part. The most important part is probably this right here, which is a calendar. And I use this with a to-do list app. I have recently started using Things 3 as my to-do list app. I went away from to-do list apps for a long time, but I decided that I needed one again. And I'm not necessarily a big fan of to-do list apps because I tend to write down too much. Here I actually have a limit on how much I can write down, which is really good. But with this system, I actually get away from that problem. So what I will do is that I will write down my most important tasks right here. These are things that need to be done or has to be done. I call them, like Ali Abdal does in his YouTube videos, I call them my daily adventures. So if I am able to do these, I am pretty much happy with my day. I have a bunch of other stuff inside of my to-do list app, but I tend to move them into here whenever I am ready to do them. And there are also small tasks like taking out the trash or washing washing my clothes, for example, which most often goes into my to-do list app instead of this. I don't like to clutter this up with a lot of small tasks when I have a lot of big tasks that needs to be done. So the big tasks are written down inside of here, while my to-do list app just has many of the smaller tasks. And if a big task or a project gets into my to-do list app, I tend to move it into here whenever I am going to do it. But let's say these tasks for yesterday actually got done quite quickly, then I would probably jump into my to-do list if I had time and do some of the tasks that were in there. I also have a somewhat of a Commonplace book. Whenever I'm in a meeting or there is something, a thought I need to write down, I tend to just write it in here. Around once a month, I actually go through this and I move things into my note-taking app or my project manager, depending on what kind of thought it is. And here I have mostly YouTube and social media strategy stuff. And this I mainly use for writing down ideas that need time to develop, that need a thinking process, because I don't want to clutter up my digital apps with the thinking process behind something, because that tends to destroy search and make it a lot harder to search for things. But I do like to see my thought process and have it available somewhere, and this is just much easier than using a bunch of different apps in order to create mind maps, to write down thoughts, and so on and so forward. So I tend to just write things here and just discuss with myself in order to figure out whether or not an idea is good. So I tend to have a lot of ideas, and I tend to say that I have 100 ideas every day, and probably 5 to 10 of them are actually good ideas. Then we have the regular size, and I do some of the same things inside of here. So I do not have a calendar inside of here, but I do a little bit of scrapbooking for fun inside of this, but mostly the first insert, which is just plain insert, I use to discuss with myself, discuss different ideas with myself in order to figure out whether or not they are good. So in my small one right here, it is only social media ideas. Inside of here, everything goes. So every single idea I have goes into here, and I spend time inside of this notebook to discuss with myself. Then I have one for poetry. I like to write poetry, so this is just basically me trying to write poetry. I won't go too deep into that one. But the last one is commonplacing. So these are personal thoughts and thoughts I have read, which I write down and I want to use in a video, or every time I'm struggling to be creative, because I work with social media as well as posting a lot of these videos. So I make a lot of content every single day, and trying to force yourself to be creative is really hard. So I tend to just have everything written down inside of here, so I can just pick and choose what I'm going to talk about every single day. I do the same for YouTube videos inside of my note app. I write down every single idea and I get back to them whenever I need them for something. So the last insert with the commonplacing is mostly for YouTube shorts and short form videos in general. That's what I use that one for. And I do not have page numbers. Let me just show you that as well. I do not have page numbers inside of here because I want to go back and actually go through the whole thing a couple of times every month, because these are things that are supposed to inspire me, and I want to be able to actually go through them, or have to go through them in order to remember some of the important stuff inside of here. This one is just a long form journal. So I actually started this quite recently. It's a couple of days old. I finished the last book, so I tried this one instead. And this is just for simple writing down everything I think about every single day. I tend to overthink. Journaling has helped me a lot. So this is basically a stream of consciousness journal, and I write in this almost every single day. I actually use all of these notebooks pretty much every single day. My favorite is probably the pocket sized notebook, because I can easily bring it with me everywhere. I can't do that with the A5, and it is a little bit hard with the regular size as well. And I do love Traveler notebook, Traveler's Company Traveler's notebooks, because the leather quality is really good and it develops a beautiful patina with scratches, as you can see on this one. This is actually a lot older than this. So this the regular size is probably 3, 4, 5 months older or something like that. This is quite new. I've only had this for a couple of months, but I do love this, and I can just put it inside of my pocket and bring it with me everywhere I go. And I also have a Kaweco Sport Brass here as well, which is probably my favorite pen. But I tend to use these notebooks for things that note-taking apps or productivity apps aren't as good at, and that is mostly mindfulness. Productivity apps, many of them doesn't help you to be more mindful about the time you are spending. So I like to have something like this because it just stops me from trying to do too much, trying to do way too much. I tend to try and do way too much, and this stops me. But I can't have all of my small tasks inside of here, so I needed a to-do list app as well. So I believe in mixing both digital productivity apps with pen and paper, because there are some things pen and paper just does a lot better. Journaling, for example, is one of them, and the blend between these two will probably increase, or at least help to increase, your productivity. You will still have to do a lot of the work, but I also believe that it is really important to have a good note-taking app and a good to-do list app, or an all-in-one app, in order to have things stored digitally as well. You have something in digital which you don't have inside of these, and that is a simple thing called search. So it is much easier to find something, and I know exactly what goes into where based on my personal productivity system, and this took me a long time to develop and a long time to realize, and a lot of trial and error. But at one point I figured out that this is probably the best system, and it has been working great for me for a couple of months, and I won't be changing anytime soon. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below, and I will try to get to them as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching today's video.